off that horse.
Tell you that God's gonna cut you
Hi,
Hello,
Carl. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing fine. So we are so
Good.
close to the release of your film, Broke. I was
hmm
wondering what you're really looking forward to. I mean, anything that you really are looking forward to.
Just sharing it with the world. It's been a long journey getting it to this stage, so I'm just excited for it to get out there and to find its audience. And yeah, I just want to share this story and the movie with everyone.
So how did you come up with this cowboy story?
Yeah, it was a kind of a big idea, not like a small one. It was sort of like a big question in my head about like transformation and who we really are and whether we're making the right decisions in life. And I guess it was probably just something that was going on in my life when I wrote it. And then, when I sat down to kind of write a story around that idea, I just sort of drew a lot from my own life and personal experience and people I know and things I've been through. So it's a very personal story in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's just about that sort of big existential question of, am I doing the things in life that I was meant to do, or am I on the right path, or just, yeah, those bigger questions.
Yeah, I think that really comes true. I mean, as someone who has watched the film, yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So when I was watching the film, I was really wondering that it must have been really difficult to shoot the blizzard scenes and the rodeo
hmm
scenes. So
Yeah.
just share the challenges, if at all, you faced while shooting the film.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really interesting kind of question because I think it was probably the biggest logistical challenge of the movie was shooting the movie in two different schedules. So we shot all the blizzard and snow stuff in February in Montana, and we shot that I think over the course of like 10 days. And then which, was extremely difficult and challenging because the blizzards are real and the weather was real. The temperatures were yeah, like minus 25 with wind chill and it was really pretty like yeah, it was punishing. Um, but we needed that kind of bad weather, so in a way it was kind of good how bad the conditions were. Um, but then yeah, we had to take a 3-month break and then come back to the same place to shoot all of the, you know, summer um footage. So that was kind of a challenge because you take a big break like that on a small movie like this and you're just wondering, gosh, I hope everybody is still available in 3 months or that everyone's healthy or that everyone's, yeah, I don't know. There's just a million things I guess that could go wrong. And we were really fortunate to be able to get everybody back to Montana to shoot the rodeo stuff.
I
But,
really,
and then the summer, yeah, and then the summer had, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
no,
off,
I mean,
but
I really did not expect the blizzard to be real. I mean, now that
yeah,
I know, it's kind of
yeah.
shocking that
Yeah, no, it was the
you
real
guys
thing. I
went
mean,
through
we
the whole experience. So,
Oh,
really,
we did.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when Wyatt's, popping out of the snow, I mean, he really is. We just buried him and shot that over and over until, he just couldn't take it anymore. It was, yeah, I mean, there was actually definitely an element of danger to shooting it because we didn't have a lot of resources. We didn't even have like star trailers or anything like that. I mean, everybody would just sit in their cars between takes with the heaters on to try to like warm up. And I guess the advantage to that is then, Wyatt's acting through that stuff is really just kind of him reacting. It's just him kind of being miserable and cold and wishing he wasn't there. So there was a blessing in disguise to that. Um, But then, yeah, shooting the rodeo stuff was not as punishing conditions wise. It was actually a lot of fun, but it was logistically challenging because we just went to real rodeos and they were kind enough to just let us work into the actual performances. So we would pay real rodeo athletes, real bareback riders to just wear the costume, and then we would shoot their performance. And then the rodeo would agree to just like pause the rodeo for like 20 minutes, and then Wyatt would get into the arena and we'd pick him up from like falling to the ground and leaving the arena. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, because then you get that real crowd energy and you get the real announcer and you just get to really kind of a big objective of mine was always to just make the movie feel as real as possible. So we just did as much stuff for real as we could, within certain parameters. We didn't want anybody to get hurt. But yeah, we just leaned into doing the real thing as much as we possibly could.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like quite an adventure, the whole shooting.
It was,
I really did not expect. I mean, I'm kind of blown and impressed
yeah,
that
yeah.
this was such a rigorous
Well,
process.
yeah, I mean, it was a small, we had a small crew of like really good people, like my DP, Charlie Seraph, who's gone on to do really great stuff like Smile and Smile 2. Like he's had a really pretty amazing rise since we did this, because we shot this before he shot those movies. He was such a good dude because when we're getting ready to do a lot of the winter stuff, we didn't really have the biggest crews. So like he would just be right there with me, like trudging through waist deep snow, trying to cut a trail to a place to set up camera. Like we would go out, before we'd shoot and literally break trail, up hillsides and through the mountains so that we could set up, a base camp for people. And yeah, that was part of the adventure of all of it. It was just sort of like being in the snow and the weather and the wind. It was like you just had to embrace it at a certain point and just try to capture the energy.
Yeah. And I mean, White Russell is just brilliant in the film. He's amazing.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I just want to know how did that collaboration took place because he's the
yeah,
producer as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And also, how was it? How was your experience working with Dennis Quaid? I would also like to know that.
yeah. Wyatt, I'm still trying to remember. He received the script years and years and years ago. I think through a mutual friend, and yeah, I just got a really passionate text back from him just saying how much he responded to the material and like how he just, really wanted to play this role and offered, in addition to playing the role, like I'd like to help you get the movie made. So, um, yeah, he really came aboard in more ways than one, and we worked on the script together, and uh, yeah, he just took like a lot of ownership over the movie. I think it really connected with him on a personal level as well, because he used to play hockey before he was
Yeah.
an actor and experienced kind of that frustration that I was talking about earlier about, when you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, man, am I doing what I was supposed to be doing? Like, 'cause he had a lot of injuries and frustrations in his hockey career, and had to make um, kind of big life decisions about, if he had to make a big change. So I think the script really spoke to him on that level. I mean, he'd be better to explain that than me, but that was sort of our early conversations about how he connected with this character. And yeah, I just knew from those conversations he got it. I just knew he understood it on like a very like deep DNA level. And so I just trusted like he was the right guy for the job, and then from day one, when we started rolling, it just was clear like, yeah, he gets it. Like there's going to be very little direction given on this because he already kind of knows this character. He just is this character. Um, and then Dennis, of course, was just like fabulous to work with. He's a big proponent of the movie and was always really supportive. And was also really, instrumental in helping get the movie off the ground. Yeah, just like a solid pro. Like he just brought so much great energy to the set, and I don't know, you can feel when people are really into the project when you're doing it. And yeah, everyone just always showed up like ready to go and passionate about the movie. So I'm just really grateful that those guys came aboard. They feel very natural to the world, which is huge. So in addition to just being like great actors, uh, they really, you know, I think the final product shows like they feel very lived in this world. It doesn't feel like you're dropping somebody from the wrong culture into this world. They really feel like they're part of this world. And in a lot of ways they are, So yeah, they were both just such great guys to work with and really made the movie so much more.
Yeah, so I was wondering that, when we think about the classic Western films, machoism is something that is very integral to Western films.
Hmm. Hmm.
A new Western film like Broke is essentially challenging that very idea, what it is to be a man and all of that.
Hmm.
So, I mean, was this a conscious effort, or you had the story and it just that's how things panned out? I mean, it was not something you consciously did. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not like as an artist, I'm not really like message first. You know what I mean? I think like I'm kind of like story first and then sort of what, if once it's made and you watch it, then you can kind of like extract whatever like subconscious values were like floating around when I was writing it. But I think that's like a fair, astute observation. I think like, the fact that he's um really considering like art as a passion and a pursuit does maybe challenge those more traditional ideas of what a cowboy is or what a man is or whatever. Um, but at the same time, I think there's a long, rich tradition in the West of cowboy art and cowboy artists. Whether it's Maynard Dixon or Will James or Ed Barine or I mean, there's a long, rich tradition of it. And one thing I guess I set out to do, but again, I don't think it was conscious when I was doing it. It's more just like apparent after the fact, is wanting to like enter into the record, like uh, the fact that there are cowboy artists. People have been recording the West since the West was a concept, and I just wanted to do like what would that look like today or generally today in like a contemporary time because it's not necessarily today, but in the last 20, 30 years, like what would a cowboy artist look like today? And I know a lot of them. I know a lot of working cowboy artists who really like live in and work in the Western world, but also paint and sell their art. Um, and then, I guess kind of marrying that with the idea of like his dad's expectations of being a man and being responsible. And, I think there's a case to be made that like if you really know what you want to do, even if it's something they disagree with, like there's responsibility in taking ownership of that and doing it. So yeah, I think those themes are all there and can be mined like successfully. I don't know that they were all necessarily conscious in my head when I wrote it, but that's obviously what I was meditating on when on a deeper level when I wrote it. So yeah, that's a really good question.
Uh, So, I mean, when we think about Western, it is one of the oldest American genres, film genres.
Hmm.
And so, as someone who has worked in this space, I wanted to
Yeah.
know what you think is the future of new Westerns.
Yeah, I mean I don't know what it's going to be. I guess I could tell you what I hope it would be.
Yeah,
I think there's like a lot of really interesting stories about like the subcultures within the subculture. I think Broke is kind of attempting to show, the cowboy art aspect, but there's a rich like there's just so many different facets of the modern West that I think can kind of get generalized. Like it's just horses and hats and cowboys
I mean,
and
someone
you
who
know. but
who's not from
yeah,
that
but
world.
there's
I
so
mean,
many
that's the
different
idea
like
that I,
there's
yeah.
so many different yeah, there's so many different subcultures within it. And I think at a very small level, but maybe slightly starting to grow, is like the differentiation that people kind of are starting to see, like a cowboy in northern Nevada doesn't dress like or sound like a cowboy in Texas per se. I mean, they do the same job, but the landscape and the history really shapes, like the material history shapes like everything from the tools they use to the hats they wear to their fashion. I mean, some of it there is a fashion. It's all very practical, but there's still like an aesthetic to different places. Like in sort of northwestern country, you'd call them buckaroos, which is a tr like a it's an evolution of the word vaquero, which is the old Spanish tradition. So that's all the like bridle horse tradition, and their hats are shaped different, their saddles look different. They rope with a different type of rope. And then in Texas, you have like Texas cowpunchers. That's the tradition. That's what they call it. And it's a t totally different style of cowboying and roping, and their hats are shaped differently. Their chaps are different. Anyways, I guess my hope would be if people start to pick up the mantle and tell more contemporary Westerns that which I would love to do as well, is starting to kind of get into the weeds and show the details about how rich the tradition is and how there's a lot of artistry and a lot of soul and a lot of yeah, just a lot of culture and a lot of different types of culture. It's not one big monolith. It's a lot of different types of people and traditions. So that's my long-winded pitch for what I kind of hope to see. I like to see it as it really is because there's so much
Essentially,
beauty
I mean,
and it's very
ideally,
cinematic. It's very
yeah,
cinematic to see these
yeah,
differences.
yeah. I mean, ideally, you would want traditional visually, but
Yeah, yeah,
ideologically, I mean, ideology-wise, you would want modern ideas. I mean, I'm guessing that is what you're talking about.
yeah, yeah. I'd like to see people who really understand the culture and the world try to tell these stories more authentically. I guess that's
Yeah,
what I'd boil it down to. And
yeah,
then, circling back to what I was saying, like I think that would be like showing kind of regional differences, that it's not just like one
yeah.
monolithic cowboy. It's like the
Mhm.
cowboy is a lot of different things depending on where you are.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to it. I mean, I'll
Yeah.
I really want to know. I mean, as someone who has not
Yeah.
explored uh
Yeah.
yeah as much, I would really I'm looking forward to
Yeah. I mean,
learning more about
I
it.
think it's a really interesting world, and I want to invite as many people in to kind of see it as it is.
Yeah. So my final question to you
Yeah.
is, as a filmmaker and a writer, what is the one lesson, if you can boil it down to one, that
Yeah.
you've learned and you would want, amateur filmmakers to, get some idea about it?
Yeah. Man, that is a really
Yeah,
good big question.
yeah,
So,
huge one.
yeah, I guess like the one big lesson. Um, think on this one, if I were to take away one big lesson, um, yeah, I guess it's just, I mean, the writing process and the directing process are a little bit different. But if I were to just sort of mash them all together to give kind of like the best sort of general answer, I think it's just about staying, like trying to remember what the original idea was when you first started, because it's a long, long, long process that's full of a bazillion opinions over the course of the filmmaking process, especially if you wrote it and you got notes on the script and then you're going to direct it. So you have a million collaborators when you're filming it and then in the post-production process. So I think it's just really trying to remember along the way, like what was the original point. And even if some of the window dressing changes, like just making sure it's still pointing towards the same thing that you wanted to communicate, because you're ultimately just trying to communicate like emotions, and hopefully they add up to like an idea. And so it's remembering what that idea was so that you can make sure it all ends up there. So I don't know. I know it's a really good question. I wish I was more articulate about that, but I think it's just making sure you remember what you started out when you what you set out to do.
Yeah, that's important. I mean, I think Broke, like you started with it in 2021, I guess.
Well, that's when I filmed it, but I wrote it a
But then,
long
yeah,
time ago. Oh yeah.
yeah.
Like I wrote it probably in man, like 12, 13 years ago.
Oh my God. So yeah, sticking to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's been when I say it's been a long journey, it really has. I'm like a completely different person today than I was when I wrote it, you know. A lot of big life changes. So, um sometimes it's really feels almost impossible to remember how it all started and what you were setting out to do. But I think it's important that you just keep some sort of reminder, you know, so that you don't lose your path.
Thank you so much for giving
Yeah,
us
thank
time.
you.
Great talking to you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. You asked really great questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.